back to the class, everyone. Today we're going to be hitting off things once again with a Galactic Legend prep video. We've already covered several of them by now. I think we're gone through 4. We still have 3 more to go. And today we are talking about the man himself, Lord Vader. Lord Vader has a ton of high relic requirements. In fact, out of all the Galactic Legends we've seen now and all the Galactic Legends we have in game, he has the highest relic count as far as requirements goes, and his team might even require the most amount of relics. So the purpose of this video becomes even more highlighted now, and that is we need to plan out which characters need to be farmed first, that we, number one, need for it to actually unlock Lord Vader, but that we need to get not only his team functional, but the other teams that we're going to be building functional. So let's go ahead and take a quick look. Well, it'll be a lot longer than a quick look, but a look at our squads, how everything lined up. And I will say this before we get all the way into it. Lord Vader presents a unique challenge. While a lot of the Galactic Legends have good and bad characters, typically a good mix, Lord Vader has a different way of looking at it. He has a lot of really good characters, but at relic levels that just aren't justifiable if they weren't required for a Galactic Legend. We'll talk about that more as the video goes on, but you'll notice that's actually why Lord Vader has more of a slanted area of like an S and an A and a B tier of characters, and actually really low amount of characters in a C and D tier. Friendly reminder as always, this is not to say that the characters here are just infinitely better than the characters here. The whole point of this is these are the characters that you should go after first, being Gas and as far as the Bad Batch. So similar when we looked at Jedi Master Luke, we talked about Jedi Knight Luke. If you can't get Jedi Knight Luke, don't bother. Don't bother going after Jedi Master Luke. The same exact rule is going to apply here with General Skywalker. If you can't get General Skywalker all the way to 7 stars, then you should not bother with Lord Vader. And he is going to be the biggest challenge. Great character. He does have about 10 requirements himself. And then on top of that, he requires an enormous amount of get one to actually finish. So this can be challenging a lot of time for newer and mid-game players. If you want to dedicate it specifically to this, that's great. But what I'm getting at is if you're also already working on Hawampa or Hoda or Malak or just don't have any get one lying around, you're going to want to skip this for now and then come back later. But if you do have Gas, he is the first one that should be Relic 8. Realistically, I don't like putting Relic 8 on a whole lot of characters. Don't have a lot of the relics salvaged for it. That being said, Gas is one that really benefits from it. Number one, the 501st team is amazing. It is one of the ones that sits right below Galactic Legends as far as overall use goes. And then on top of that, he can just use the stats. He's an attacker tank combo kind of, or taunting attacker, I guess, where he can really use as much defense and protection, but also on the other side, offense and crit damage or crit chance and stuff like that. Does he actually have crit damage in his mastery? Nope, only crit chance. So he can still use that at any rate. So very good for that one. And the next ones are really easy slam dunks, and that is going to just be the Bad Batch faction entirely except Omega. They're all requirements for him, so you need to go after them anyways. And Bad Batch are super functional. Just the 4 of them, you can slot in Cody or Shakti or Clone Sergeant or Omega. Like they're usable. It's not their best form without Omega, but they're definitely a functional squad that can take out a lot of things, even without having a good 5th there. And R5 is a very reasonable relic level to get them to. This is kind of nice because then you can immediately use Datacrons on their team, especially if it's on offense undermanning. They can beat a huge slew of teams. And one of the things that I've been really impressed with them recently, we've essentially been ushered into a new meta as far as GAC goes, where almost all the teams that are coming out now are like B+ range teams. Bad Batch, at least on offense, just destroys most of them. It beats Sana, it beats Sortie, it beats Admiral Trench right now in GC. So they're just doing a lot of really cool stuff. They're not going out of favor. If I do ever make a core video team, I think they just have to be a part of it. They end up being used in so many different ways. And I won't get into the intricacies of all their kits. Just know that they work well and they work well together. Next up is our A tier. And these, again, all these characters you realistically want at some point or another, even if you're not going after Lord Vader. This is where things start to get a lot messier. First up is Zam Wessel. I'm not going to start listing off all the other bounty hunters. I'm just going to assume you have a bounty hunter team in some form or fashion that could benefit from Zam's. Omicron, she's nice to have up to high relic. I wouldn't say take her right to R7 maybe leave her there to the end, but I mean, she can it's nice that she's able to share these stats with all of her allies, so it's really not the end of the world. Like, she's sharing max health, offense, max protection, and speed, all the way out to the rest of her team, kind of like a really enhanced number crunch. So it's not bad to have R7 right away, but the amount of bonus stats is really what you were going after for her, and that's why she's on the list. Arc is a damage dealer. I love the fact that every single boost that you give to his offense through his relic is not only increasing his damage, but it's increasing the turret's damage on top of that. Next up, we are going to be looking at Maul, and Maul, he is going to be the first character that isn't a requirement directly to unlock Lord Vader, but you do need him if you want to get the best bang for your buck from the Lord Vader team. He's not, and the reason why he's not in the S tier is because you can actually make a pretty good Lord Vader team without him. The connection between him and Lord Vader is good. You want it. It does change matchups, specifically win rate percentages, but it's not as crucial, say, the JMK Cat interaction. JMK, or Cat without JMK, or JMK without Cat, either way, starts to get beat by a lot of like really low level teams. Bad Batch actually beat JMK without Cat. Gas beats JMK without Cat. A traditional Padme team without Cat beats JMK without Cat. So you open up a lot of counters, whereas Lord Vader with Maul does make several things harder, but it doesn't just like start crossing some really low level teams off the list and beating them. Like Fennec is the most obvious counter to Lord Vader. Maul doesn't 100% stop that. He does make it harder, does make you require BAM in the team to put out the damage immunity, but it's, yeah. He makes the team better, but it's not impossible is what I'm getting at. So you do want him for the team. You do want to prepare in the A tier, so do make your way into him as fast as possible. Next up is going to be Fives, and he's almost the last one for our A tier list. Fives is pretty much just on here because if you're going to go out of your way to build up half the 501st team, you really need to have Fives in that mix, and he should really be at the top of this A tier list just because when he dies, assuming he was killed because with his tactical awareness, so when one of the other clones is about to eat it, he is going to pass on his max health, his max protection, his speed, and his offense, and his relic levels give him all those stats except speed. So you're looking at a huge boost by putting really high relics on him all the way up to relic 7. I mean, I guess you could do 8 or 9. That's probably justifiable, especially because his ship is somewhat good. But he is one you're going to want to get up there just to have the 501st team functional. Again, not an exact requirement for Lord Vader, but that is a little weird that he isn't. They have like a really good relationship anyways. And then Darth Vader. I don't really know how much I need to talk about Darth Vader. I think we already talked about him during the CE event. He's overall pretty good. You do want to have him. He can be used in several lineups before and after Lord Vader. He's good in the Lord Vader comp. He's good in a Palpatine comp. He's okay in under his own lead in some circumstances, but just kind of versatile. Not as groundbreaking as this top tier, and this top tier really is the most important to have down, and especially because Bad Batch needs a lot of Kairos, so you need to make sure you're up for that investment. After those two tiers, we're looking at the B tiers. These, again, are characters that you want to have at some point, but you don't need to necessarily rush. We'll start with Padme. Padme's good. Padme's important. She's good in her own squad or in a JMK squad. The reason why she's all the way down in the B tier, though, is I hate this to this day. I do not like having Relic 8 on Padme. It doesn't hurt me. It's not bad, but gosh, is it a waste. Like, she would be perfectly functional at R5, maybe even lower. I used to use an R4 to counter gas consistently with Grandmaster Yoda, and she was always the last to die. This sucks. I don't like this at all. So you can get her to Gear 13 or Relic 3 or something like that as soon ahead as you want. Even, again, if Lord Vader didn't exist, you should probably be doing it on R3 Padme. But all the way up to R8, like, that can wait a minute. Get your Bad Batch, get your 501st going before you dip into that. Echo's here. He is an actual requirement for Lord Vader as well. He's probably just the least important. Well, actually, Rex is probably the least important as far as relics go, so does need to happen. Doesn't need to be right away like the other two. Rex is on the list as well. Again, not a real requirement, but if you want the 501st to function, you have to have Rex in some variation. I am at R3 for a long time, but to have any shot at Malgus, I really needed to be able to put Datacrons on him, so he went all the way up to R5. Not sure if you need to do that right out the gate, but R3 is definitely suggested. That's actually the bare minimum that he needs as well to beat the Shock mission, at least consistently, would be R3. Not the Shock mission, the Cam mission using Shock. Tarkin is here. The reason why Tarkin is here all the way up at R7, and this is not going to apply to every single player out there, but for the Executrix counter to Profundity to be consistent, the Executrix has a magic speed that it needs to hit, and I think it's exactly what I have. I think it's like 182 or 183. It is very difficult. You can do it through Zetas, which, as you can see, I haven't done. Instead, I just went with the R7 and the 60 mods, also pilot mods, so paid no attention to those. I realized they don't match. Oh, we have a health set. Anyways, the reason why he needs to be that fast is because, the reason why he needs Relic 7 is to be that fast so the profundity counter can be consistent. Again, not a hard wreck. If that's not a reality you're facing, he can probably go to the back of the line, but that is something nice that you can benefit from right away. His character viability is very low. He's not doing, I mean, he's okay in a Palpatine team, but he's ultimately not doing a whole lot, at least right now. And next up is going to be our C tier. These guys are pretty self-explanatory. C tier is typically for filler characters, aka characters that don't have like a best use right now that exists for them, but they can fill in a lot of places. Like Dooku is not terrible in a ton of Sith teams. He can be functional in a Trey team kind of as a healer. Embo is not bad in bounty hunter teams. I guess it is probably worth mentioning that he's really good with Jabba, but I'm assuming you don't have Jabba yet. If you do, you could probably take him higher in the list, but we're not really building a full bounty hunter squad with this lineup right now. We have Zam, and they can go together, but I mean, you're missing the core units. You're missing Bosk, you're missing Mandu, you're missing Grief. And while those characters are great, I'm not sure if I would step away from, you know, all of this and relicking Lord Vader before getting sidetracked into that little adventure, as good as the team as that is. And last and most certainly least is going to be these two. And let's talk about Newt first. I have the same thing for Newt is the same thing for Padme. Great character. Gosh, do I hate that he's R7. It's number one, it's a huge waste of relics. He is perfectly functional R3, I guess R5 for Datacrons. But it's bad. Like, it actually, I think, functionally makes his character worse, because I always use Newt with General Grievous either versus Starkiller or CLS. Sometimes it is so important in the match for Newt to just eat it. I just want him to die. That way Grievous will get cleansed. He'll got 100% turn meter. He'll be able to use his big AoE. We'll get target lock. We'll push everyone back. And at R7, he just doesn't die sometimes, and it's super annoying. Him dying is also kind of irrelevant for the most part, because he's going to just revive and come right back. But yeah, this annoys me. I guess were there any character in game, this is probably a lie, but if there were one of the top characters in game that I could just take relic levels off of, it would be Newt, just because, again, I want him to eat it faster so that Grievous can get a bonus turn, so we can start building his health faster, so we can start pushing the enemy back, and we don't have to worry about other things, because it was always really nice when CLS, or Han, rather, would open up shooting Newt first and give Grievous 100% turn meter or a bonus turn right when the match opened, but Relic 7 doesn't die, so I don't get that privilege. Anyways, end rant. Tusken Raider, he's pretty much worthless. If you don't have Tusken's build, there's no reason to go after him. So he is in the last tier. I will say this, once you're done with Lord Vader, if you've done Lord Vader and Jabba and you already have the two of them built up, it's probably worth going after a Tusken team after that. If you already have two of them, with the new raid coming up, they're likely to be very important for that, and I think CG's made it clear they're going to probably be in a lot of Galactic challenges as well as conquest for the probably next 4 months or so. So, is he an important character of the game? Kind of. Is he at all decent without the rest of his faction that I wouldn't recommend you farm before doing Lord Vader? Also, yes. So that is going to be it for today. Let us know what other characters you think we need. I did leave out quite a few for Lord Vader's initial team, but Lord Vader really is just functional with a lot of different types of Empire units, especially with having Maul on our list here. He should be good to go. But thank you guys for watching. Until the next time, stay awesome.